Imagine a man standing in front of a mirror. Same face, same body, same life, but one version of him keeps his word. The other version makes promises and breaks them. Now answer this honestly. Which one are you? Because you don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. Most men wake up and ask, "Do I feel like it today?" And the moment you ask that, you've already lost. Discipline isn't a feeling. It's not a mood. It's not a speech you give yourself at midnight. Discipline is a weapon, and right now, yours is dull. You keep talking about the man you could become, but your daily actions belong to someone else. Someone weaker, someone comfortable. And here's the part that should scare you. You think you're choosing your life. You're not. You're being trained. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you train weakness. Every time you delay what you know you must do, you train excuses. Every time you scroll instead of building, you train distraction. So one day you wake up and realize you didn't fail. You became exactly what your habits trained you to be. Now listen, Sparta wasn't built on motivation. It was built on standards, not quotes, not hype, not "I'll start Monday." Standards. In Sparta, weakness didn't get a vote, excuses didn't get a microphone, and feelings didn't get to lead. Because Sparta understood something modern men forgot. If your rules change based on your mood, then you don't have rules, you have suggestions, and suggestions don't build men. They build inconsistency, they build regret, they build that cycle you already know. Start strong, fade out, disappear, repeat. So today, we replace your soft suggestions with hard rules, 7 Spartan rules to build discipline like a blade. Not advice, not inspiration. Rules. They're simple, and they work, if you make them non-negotiable. You don't need to apply all 7 perfectly. You need to apply them honestly. No pretending, no almost, no mental gymnastics, because if you can follow rules when you don't feel like it, you win your life back. Now, rule number 1 is no negotiation. Most men don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they debate with weakness. They wake up and hold a meeting in their head. Should I train today? Maybe later. I'm tired. I deserve rest. Tomorrow will be better. That conversation feels harmless. It feels reasonable, but it's a trap. Because negotiation is not problem solving. For most men, negotiation is just a polite way to surrender. Weakness doesn't show up screaming. It shows up sounding like you. It doesn't ask for your whole life. It asks for a small delay, a small comfort, a small exception. And once you give it one exception, it demands a second, then a third, then it becomes your personality. So here is the Spartan truth. The moment you negotiate, you invite weakness to sit at the table. And once weakness has a seat, it starts making decisions. You've seen the pattern. You start strong, you feel powerful for 2 days. Then life gets heavy, and you begin bargaining. Not because you lack potential, because you lack a rule. A rule doesn't care how you feel. A rule doesn't care what happened yesterday. A rule doesn't ask for your opinion. A rule only asks one question. Did you do it? Yes or no? Now listen carefully. This isn't about becoming robotic. It's about becoming reliable. Because a man who isn't reliable is not free. He's controlled by mood, controlled by comfort, controlled by impulse. And that's not a man. That's a puppet with muscles. So how do you apply no negotiation in real life? Simple, brutal, practical. Starting today, you choose 3 daily orders. Not 10, not a perfect schedule. 3, 1 physical, 1 productive, 1 personal. Physical can be training, hard walk, a strict routine, push-ups, sprints, anything. Productive can be deep work, building a skill, finishing one task that actually moves your life. Personal can be clean meals, no porn, sleep on time, reading. Discipline with your mouth and reactions. Pick 3, write them down, and now comes the key. Execute before your mind wakes up. Your first non-negotiable must be done early, before distraction enters, before excuses stack up, before the world pulls you apart. Because the first win of the day changes your posture. It tells your brain, I lead, you follow. Now, when the excuse appears, and it will, you do not argue with it. You do not motivate yourself, you do not open a debate. You say one sentence, not relevant. And you move, because you are not trying to feel disciplined. You are training discipline as an automatic response. Here's the line you need burned into your mind. If it's optional, you'll quit. If it's non-negotiable, you'll adapt. Most men are not failing because they can't do hard things. They're failing because they keep giving themselves exit doors. They plan like a warrior, but act like a negotiator. Sparta didn't negotiate with the standard. You don't either. And when you do this, when you stop bargaining with yourself, something changes fast. You start keeping your word. And the moment you keep your word consistently, you don't gain motivation. You gain something more dangerous. Self-respect. Not confidence, not hype. Self-respect. Rule number 2. Win the first hour. Because most men don't lose the day at noon. They lose it in the first 10 minutes. They wake up and immediately surrender control. They check the phone, they absorb noise, they react to messages, they feed the brain cheap dopamine. And after that, they wonder why they feel weak, why they feel scattered, why they can't focus. Let me make it brutal and clear. If your first hour belongs to distraction, then the rest of the day belongs to distraction too. Spartan discipline starts before the world touches you, before people demand your attention, before your mind starts complaining. So here's the rule. The first hour is not for comfort. The first hour is for control. And no, you don't need a perfect routine. You need a repeatable one. The Spartan first hour. Simple, non-negotiable. Here's the template. 4 moves. That's it. Number 1, hydrate. Not coffee first, water first. Tell your body, we're awake, we're moving. Number 2, move. 10 minutes minimum. A walk, push-ups, stretching, anything that turns you on. Your body must feel command before your mind begins excuses. Number 3, cold exposure or discomfort, optional but powerful. Not for biohacking, for obedience. You do something uncomfortable on purpose, and your brain learns, we don't run. Number 4, write the day's orders, 3 tasks. Same system as rule number 1, 1 physical, 1 productive, 1 personal, and you choose the one that matters most, the one you've been avoiding. Because that's the Spartan move. You don't do what is easy first, you do what is necessary first. Now listen, this is where most men mess it up. They try to optimize. They try to make it aesthetic. They try to build a morning routine that looks good on camera. Forget that. The goal is not to impress. The goal is to become dangerous to your old self. The first hour is how you tell your nervous system, I lead, you follow. And when you win the first hour, something happens. You stop chasing momentum. You create it. So when the day gets heavy later, when stress shows up, when people pull you in different directions, you already have a win. You already proved control. Rule number 3, controlled hardship. This is the rule that separates men who talk from men who transform. Because comfort doesn't just relax you. Comfort trains you to avoid pain. And a man trained to avoid pain will avoid everything that matters. Hard work, hard conversations, hard training, hard truth. He'll choose easy, and then he'll call it balance. Spartan discipline does the opposite. You choose discomfort on purpose. You choose it daily, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you refuse to be controlled by comfort. Here's the truth most men hate. Your life will include hardship anyway. Life will hit you whether you train or not. The only question is, will hardship break you, or will it find you prepared? That's what controlled hardship does. It prepares you. The Spartan discomfort menu. Pick one daily. This is not complicated. You pick one hard thing each day. Cold water for 30 to 60 seconds at the end of a shower. Hard walk without music, without phone, just you and your mind. Training when you don't want to, especially then. Eating clean when cravings hit. Doing the hardest task first before anything fun. Pick one. Because the goal is simple. You train the nervous system to obey the standard. Now I'm going to say something that will offend weak men. If you always need comfort to function, you are not living. You are being managed by pleasure, and pleasure is a terrible leader. Controlled hardship builds a different type of man, a man who can do what must be done even when the mood is dead. And here's the hidden benefit. When you choose discomfort daily, you stop fearing discomfort. The anxiety drops, the hesitation drops, because your brain learns this is survivable, this is normal, we can handle it. That's why softness creates panic and hardness creates calm. Sparta understood this without explaining it. They lived it. Now here's a simple Spartan rule inside the rule. Never leave the gym with energy left for excuses. Never end the day with the feeling that you almost showed up. You either train or you pretend. And if you pretend long enough, you'll become the man you hate in the mirror. So you pick one hardship daily, and you do it without drama. No posting, no announcing, no look at me, just obedience. Because discipline doesn't need applause, it needs repetition. Rule number 4, repetition builds identity. Most men think they need a breakthrough. They don't. They need a pattern. Because your identity is not what you believe. It's not what you want. It's not what you post. It's not what you promise. Your identity is what you do again and again. This is why motivation is a trap. Motivation is emotional. It spikes and crashes. But repetition is mechanical, cold, reliable, and that's exactly why it works. Spartan discipline isn't built in one heroic day. It's built in ordinary days, where nobody is watching, where nothing feels special, where you could quit and nobody would stop you. That's where men are made. Because repetition does one thing your brain can't ignore. It provides proof, not hope, not hype, proof. Every time you repeat the standard, you send a message. This is who I am. And every time you break your word, you send a different message. This is who I really am. So here's the Spartan truth. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your training. Which means, if your daily training is inconsistency, you'll fall into inconsistency every time. The Spartan identity rule. Pick one daily action that proves discipline. 1, not 5. One action that you will repeat for the next 30 days. Examples: 30 minutes training or hard walking, 1 clean meal every day, 1 hour deep work, phone off for the first hour, sleep before a certain time. Pick one and make it sacred, because men fail for a simple reason. They keep changing the plan. They treat discipline like entertainment. They need novelty. They need a new trick, a new routine, a new system. That's weakness. Strength is boring. Strength repeats. Now listen to me carefully. You do not change the plan when you're tired. You do not redesign your life when you're emotional. You do not rethink everything when you feel weak. That's when the old you tries to escape. So when the mind says, stop, you don't argue. You don't panic. You don't negotiate. You repeat. Because repetition is how you kill the old identity. Not by hatred, not by self-talk, by replacement. The old man fades because the new man shows up every day. Rule number 5, finish what you start. Starting is cheap. Starting feels good. Starting gives you the illusion of progress, but finishing is what builds a man. Most weak men collect beginnings. They collect day 1. They collect plans. They collect motivation speeches. They are professional starters. But life doesn't reward starters. Life rewards finishers. Because a man who finishes is rare. A man who finishes becomes dangerous. Now here's why this rule matters more than you think. Every time you quit, you train quitting. You teach your brain, when it gets hard, we exit. So the next time gets easier to quit, and the next time even easier. Quitting becomes a reflex. That's why you can't focus. That's why you can't stay consistent. That's why you don't trust yourself. You're not broken. You're trained, and the training must be reversed. The Spartan finish rule daily. Every single day must end with one finished thing. Not 10, 1. One task completed. One session completed. One commitment kept. It can be small, but it must be real. Because the goal is not productivity. The goal is identity. I am a man who finishes. And you will feel resistance here, because finishing is where your weakness panics. Your weakness will say, good enough, close enough, do it tomorrow. You can skip this once. That voice is not your friend. That voice is the old you fighting for survival. So you do the Spartan thing. You finish without drama, without emotion, without negotiation. You finish because you said you would. And when you do this for 7 days, your self-respect starts returning. When you do it for 30 days, your confidence becomes quiet, not loud, not fake, quiet confidence. Because you're not confident from thinking. You're confident because you have evidence. Evidence that when you give an order, you obey it. Rule number 6, silence and self-control. Weak men are loud. They talk about what they're going to do. They announce their plans. They argue. They complain. They explain themselves. They need attention because they don't have discipline. But strong men are controlled. They don't waste energy on noise. They don't need to win every argument. They don't react to every emotion like a child because they understand one brutal truth. Every reaction is a leak of power. If someone can pull your emotions with a sentence, they can control your day. If your impulses can control your mouth, they can control your life. So here is the Spartan standard. You don't let emotions lead. You don't let your mouth run ahead of your discipline. You become heavy, quiet, unmoved. The Spartan pause, 3 seconds. Here's the drill. It's simple. Whenever you feel an impulse, anger, frustration, craving, fear, you pause for 3 seconds, not to calm down, to take back command. 3 seconds. In that pause, you ask one question. What does the standard require? Not what your mood wants, not what your ego wants, what the standard requires, and then you act like a man who leads. You will be shocked how much control you gain when you stop reacting instantly, because modern men are trained to react. React to notifications, react to cravings, react to opinions, react to stress. That's not strength, that's programming, and silence breaks the program. The Spartan rule of speech. Stop explaining your discipline to people who don't live it. Stop announcing the plan. Stop posting the mission. Stop begging for validation. Move in silence. Because discipline doesn't need witnesses, it needs repetition. And here's the final truth of this rule. A man who cannot control his mouth cannot control his body. And a man who cannot control his body cannot control his destiny. Rule number 7, brotherhood, accountability. Most men fail in private, not because they're weak, because they're alone with their excuses. When nobody is watching, weakness becomes confident. It whispers, skip it. No one will know. It doesn't matter. And if you're alone, you might believe it. That's why discipline collapses behind closed doors. A man alone can always negotiate. A man alone can always delay. A man alone can always lie. So you need one thing, not a crowd, not fans, not strangers online. One brother, one witness to your standard, the accountability system. You pick one person, a friend, a brother, a disciplined man, and you make it binary. Every day, one message. Did you execute your non-negotiables? The only answers are yes or no. No excuses, no paragraphs, no stories, because stories are where weakness hides. And when the answer is no, you pay a price, not guilt, not self-hate. A price. A simple penalty that trains seriousness, extra workout, cold shower, no entertainment that day, earlier sleep, no phone. You train the mind to understand breaking the standard costs you. Because without cost, rules become jokes. Now listen, this rule is powerful for one reason. You stop living in imagination. A lot of men live in fantasy. They imagine they're disciplined. They imagine they're strong. They imagine they're improving. Accountability crushes fantasy. It forces reality. And reality is where discipline grows. Now you know the rules. Not theories. Not motivation. Rules. And here's the truth. Nothing changes because you understood this. Nothing changes because you agreed with it. Nothing changes because you felt inspired for 5 minutes. Change only happens when you obey, so choose. Do you want to be the man in the mirror who keeps his word, or the man who makes promises and breaks them? Because discipline is a weapon, and every day you don't sharpen it, rust wins. No negotiation. Win the first hour. Choose controlled hardship. Repeat, finish, stay silent, stay accountable. And if you're still waiting for the perfect moment, you already lost. Start today, not tomorrow. If you want the next doctrine, subscribe. This channel isn't here to comfort you. It's here to help build you.